Hey, better late than never, huh? Yeah, it's a combination of equipment issues and my own stupidity issues. They both tend to come together, and I don't always make a hell of a lot of sense. Not that I'm trying to. Let's get to it. Let's make some sense. How thin is your skin? Now, if you're a Canadian, it's a lot thinner than it is if you're an American. But American skin is already so damn thin, they're in danger of falling through it and dying. That might be worth watching. Understand this. Although Canadians are much worse than us, we're on the way there. Americans' extreme sensitivity to pretty much everything that they don't agree with is leading me to think, what in the hell are you doing? Where did you come from? Was it your parents? Was it because you're born with a little twist in your DNA that doesn't quite work out? Come on. It makes my ass hurt when considering just how thin-skinned and easily triggered people can be. You got a hair trigger. Your skin's like that on an onion. What the hell is going on? It's like we're two different nations clapped into one. Some of the folks are incredibly thin-skinned, and the others tend to be able to brush off any words, offensive words, horrible words, terrible, nuclear words, shut the hell up. Those of us with a little bit of thick skin and the ability to know that sticks and stones won't break our bones, when we hear words such as nigger, or spic, or yid, or fag, and even more than anyone could think of, this rolls off our back because we're not going crazy. Oh my God, he said that word. Ah! No. I have two friends. They're pretty good friends. They're openly gay, but they're not thin-skinned. I know that's uncommon. They tell me too. They say, well, most people like us, meaning LGBTQ, are very thin-skinned, but these two are among that minority that are not. They've heard virtually every nickname or slur one could imagine being openly gay, but they let it roll off their backs like water off the back of a duck. They've got it right. I was there when somebody near us referred to them as fudge packers. That's a gross and inflammatory insult. Understand? And all it took for them and others in the group was to simply ignore the ignorance of this jackass who said it and move on. Well, we have a dilemma now that parts of our verbiage have been labeled hate speech. That's right. Can't say those bad words derogatorily, or you're hate speech. You'd better watch the context in which you use them, and even that is probably slipping away from us word by word, sentence by sentence, grimace by grimace, nuance by nuance. Do you understand this? The use of such words like these really, it shows the ignorance, stupidity, and rudeness of people. But we have this dilemma because now the term hate speech has not only entered society, it's been codified into law. The very invention of hate speech is itself the height of stupidity and of itself criminal, or at the very best, immoral. With governmental support of speech censorship, followed by big business partnering with government, we're in danger of losing our humanity. In print or speech, the hate police are ever on the patrol. They're looking for violations through agencies, bureaus, departments such as the FCC, the FAA, the FBI, the DHS, the blah blah XYZ. A bevy of other law enforcement bureaus bent on finding some way to nab, nail, and pinch more otherwise innocent people. Of course, we're not as bad as the Canadians. Talk about to me. So what about it? Our neighbors to the north wince, cry, and it's unbelievable. You can trigger them with a single word, and it seems that the average Canadian is like the worst of the Americans. So maybe if the worst of the Americans are about where the Canadians are, there might be room for us. There might be room. Canada, they're beyond redemption. The only hope Canadians can ever have is if they are annexed as a territory or state of the United States of America. That's a fact. Let's get on to this. The Canadians, our neighbors to the north. A man in British Columbia very recently was fined $750,000 for expounding upon his website that he personally does not believe there are more than two sexes. He's a gender denier. He says there's only two, male and female. God created he them. Well, for stating a medical and scientific certainty, he was fined $750,000 Canadian dollars, which is about $500,000 American dollars, real money. Labeled a gender denier, he now has a criminal record, and if he can muster the bucks, a really hard-hitting financial deprivation, say goodbye to your credit score, my friend. After you've been fined $750,000, even if you can write a check, your credit score is going subterranean, and that's because Canada's not a free country. They don't have a constitution. If they did, maybe they wouldn't be in the mess they're in now. How about the preacher? I believe it was Toronto, Canada. He was up in the pulpit quoting Bible verses and talking about a program that allows homosexuals to be dehomified, to be returned to straight life, to shuck off their homosexuality. He was talking about it. Well, for quoting from the Bible and mentioning this program, he's received 7 years in prison. That's right. Hate speech. Hate speech. Hate speech. Oh my God, you didn't say that. Yes, you did, sir. Put your hands behind your back. This is Canada. You do not have the right to a lawyer. You do not have the right to remain silent. You do not have the right. This is Canada, eh? We're the socialist bugs to the north of one of the last free countries in the world. And even they are losing the free. How about the 3 Franciscan monks? Guys from the order of St. Francis of Assisi. Peaceful, sweet men. They were standing on the street, across the street from an abortion mill. They were holding up signs, praying, kneeling, praying with a rosary. They were on private land and were allowed to be there by the owner. So separating them from the abortion clinic was a sidewalk, a street, and a sidewalk. You know what? That didn't matter. These monks got 6 months in jail. No, I'm not kidding you. They were across the street. Yep, the jackboots, known as the RCMP, Royal Canadian Mounted Perverts, nailed these poor monks. A monk, for God's sake, praying across the street on private property. That's what happens in a country when they have no constitution to back them up in what's right and what's wrong, because without a constitution, right and wrong become relevant. Oh, I say it's right today. Oh, it's not right tomorrow. You got to realize that free speech, expression of belief in any form, is strictly policed by the Canadian authorities. For example, my show, my vlogs, and my other show, they're filtered out by the Canadians. I'm not allowed north of the parallel because what I say doesn't fit the government directive. They own 100% of TV and radio in Canada. The government runs it all. Could you imagine in America having to suffer NPR or PBS and have no other choice? Now the Canadians are suffering from a lot of that. I mean, they can use a VPN, but that's the only way they're going to get me or a million other people who have things to say that do not jive with, oh, Canada, you make my ass to hurt. Another story. Let's go on. Anyway, these censors are the enemy. Forget about the riots over open borders. Forget about the drug dealers. The biggest threat we have is censorship. It's rampant in Canada. It's rampant in their motherland, the United Kingdom. Pay attention because it's coming your way. It's coming. If you don't do something about it, if you don't get off your ass, vote, complain, write, email, whatever, if you don't, soon it won't be just Canada that suffers from the censorship of thought, speech, and being.